This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Cristina Neculcea. Cristina, thank you for joining Rising Tide.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
And thank you for sporting your Yale stuff, your Yale.
No, it's Harvard.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
No, it's Harvard.
Exactly. This is not Yale. That's right. Well, tell our listeners a little bit, who is Cristina Neculcea?
Hi, everyone. Like Kevin said, my name is Cristina Neculcea. I'm originally from Republic of Moldova. I came to the United States about 15, 16 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity to be here. And as you see, I'm currently sporting Harvard because I'm a student there now, getting my master's degree. So that's definitely a huge stepping stone that, I thank God for. So aside from that, I'm a huge business junkie, as my friend Kevin would say. I read a lot of that stuff, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. So one thing that I do that I really love is I love to work with startups, and I love because I'm still young. I did a startup myself, and I've realized that I love to learn, of course, but also to help people in this process, because it's so hard to, when you're starting a business, especially the networking part, and then how to put it all together. It's like everything is thrown at you, and you're just kind of finding out when you're in the business already. And a lot of times people fail and they give up. And I just kind of want to help people to get over that stepping stone. Mm-hmm. And, get into the scaling of the business and how to network the right way. And I specifically specialize in service-based business, because those are actually the hardest to get clients. So that's a little bit about what I do.
So you kind of covered some ground there, but you left out so much. We've talked about, you've lived like 3 lifetimes in your young life. When we first started talking, and you told me some of the things you've been involved with in the past and are involved with now, it's like, you truly left out a lot, just probably for the sake of time and brevity. So tell us right now, if you and I are stepping on an elevator and we're going up 10 floors, give me your sales pitch, exactly what service other than being a master's student at Harvard, what is the primary service or business, your primary source of revenue right now?
My primary source of business, I help people achieve their goals in their business through leadership growth, self-growth, and entrepreneurial growth. And those 3 things, you have to have them together. That's something that I strongly believe in. Because if you're not dedicated, if you don't take the time to invest in yourself, to learn things, to read things, which is something that I highly recommend for everybody to never stop reading, then you don't know how to be a leader in your industry, because you have to be a leader in order for your business to start scaling. So that's how you can see that those 3 go together. So I really help people put that stuff together. And it's actually such basic ground rules that people just kind of go over, kind of like invite somebody for a cup of coffee, and that's your best networking thing. And people are like, I never thought about that. I thought I had to do this grand marketing proposal and different things. And, that's very true. But when you're a small startup company, you got to start small, and your network is truly your net worth. And that's what it all starts, and social media is a big thing for me. We met through social media, and, people just, of course, there's so many negative things in social media, but there's so many positive things, and people just don't take the positive things to leverage that for their business. So the best, sales pitch that I can, it's always a question: how is your business doing, and where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years from now?
Right.
And if people stumble, be like, well, I can help you with that idea, because the more people connect together and the more you network with people, you just see yourself going, on this stairway going up.
Mm-hmm. And people I would guess people would tend to come to you as the services, word of mouth, referrals, as you've delivered services to people and kind of grown their business, I mean, that's when you have to worry about getting clients less. And actually, it's just a continual process of, you growing in that as well.
Definitely. Absolutely. You always learn from everything. As an entrepreneur, and as just anybody that's an entrepreneur, they're an entrepreneur because they learn, they're curious.
Right.
And so, just because I'm a person that provides a service doesn't mean I can learn a thing or two from the other person that I'm providing the service to,
Sure.
And for example, I was recently working with a company who is they have a software program who are doing automotive stuff. I don't really know anything about automotives, but I know branding and I know how to copyright and how to sell without selling, pretty much.
Right.
You give the customer an experience. Like I said, I had no idea about, how cars are made or, OEMs and all that stuff. But now I do. Because through the process, I've learned all of that stuff, So, it's definitely going to help me in the future if I want to, work for a bigger company. And now I can tell them, hey, this is my experience. This is what I've done. And, just go with it.
So, we kind of jumped I came from Moldova to the United States, and now I'm delivering business services. So what was the trigger and about when did that happen? I mean, were you in high school? Were you in college when something snapped and thought, you know what, I can do this. I really love the business world. I want to, run my own thing. I don't want to work for anybody. I mean, what was that kind of short process, the condensed process that you went through to land where you are today?
So actually, my mom always laughs at me because when I was younger, I would make cookies and sell them in the neighborhood.
Of course. That's right.
I was, a business from the startup because I still remember I was about 14 years old and I didn't even have a job yet, like a full-time job. And so I remember my older friends had jobs and I was going to apply for McDonald's. I already had it all planned out because my friends were working there. So I would already count the money I would make and everything I would do with my money. So I'm funny like that. But the first real business I've actually owned, and it was kind of happened by mistake. I know it's funny, but I started doing event planning for my friends they were getting married and, doing church things. And I attend a big church. So a lot of people after that, they would just come hey, I heard you planned this event or you designed this and could you come do my wedding? And at first I was doing it for free because I totally loved it, but then it got bigger and people started paying me. So I kind of found myself in a business. The problem with that was I didn't have any strategic plans. I didn't have anything. I was just kind of doing it. And then I realized it was burning me out. People were cheating me, of money, all that stuff. And then I stopped doing it. And then for some reason, after I was in college, my first year, and I was like, you know what? I need some extra money. Let me get back into this business. So I stumbled across a few, people like John Maxwell and started reading his books. And then there's this other guy, I can't think of his name, Tony Robbins, and, started reading more into the business world and personal growth. So I'm like, well, what if I applied that to the business? So of course it was a hard process, but I did that. And I actually started scaling my business really good. We had a few awards in Atlanta area, and we got to be in several wedding magazines as well.
And so that was a college student.
Yeah, I was a college student,
Wow.
Still trying to figure out what I want to manage. Still trying to figure out what I was trying to major in, but here I am running a business. So I realized I needed more experience. So what I did, I sold the business. I went back to corporate world and kind of stumbled across, some really great opportunities. And I have actually worked for a Fortune 500 company. And that was something that was so beyond my level of expertise and my experience. But I've learned so much. I got to know so much about the business world, the theory of business and how big companies leverage their money and their clients and prospects. I got to learn things that, even though I was running a business, I never knew.
Right.
And then had a few more other jobs after that, just kind of, moving into hires. I graduated with I graduated from college and just started moving on up. And then I realized that I was an executive assistant, so I would always think of ideas and stuff that people, would take, and they would apply to their business or things. So I thought to myself, I'm like, why don't I get out and charge people for this more? Like, they're paying me a salary right now, but I can charge them more and do it. So I realized back at the time when I started my first business and how I failed miserably, how I had absolutely no idea about what I was doing. And so when I funded my company, Vankoë Group, my slogan is developing ideas for success. People have great ideas. Entrepreneurs are like idea machines. They're always coming up with things. But the hard part is they do not know how to put their ideas into a successful business plan. So I thought to myself, about my experience, and I said, what if I get out and make this into a business and really train people and teach people how to do this? And I love it because I've gotten to know so many people. I've gotten to be friends with so many people, just connected me with people on an international level, and it allowed me to travel a lot, to meet amazing people, to be part of the John Maxwell team, and to just do so many things that I've never thought I would do. It was something that just blew my mind. And that's what happens when you open your mind to different possibilities and just kind of like get out of the boat and start walking water.
Yeah. And not only get out of the boat, in some cases, you have to burn the boat so you won't be tempted to get back in back across the lake. But so touch on, I mean, we've talked offline about, much longer detail about some of the things that you've been involved with, but just kind of give me a really quick timeline, go from college to today and say, okay, from college, then I was at this company, and then I did this, and then I did this, and just real quick highlights, just to kind of give the listener a broad kind of comprehensive look at, the time from college to now, or I guess undergraduate to now.
Yes. So it's been about 8 years. I was like a 19-year-old little girl. Here I first year in college started. Actually, I was right out of high school when I started doing this thing, not as a business, just doing it for my friends. And then first year in college, I'm 19 years old, and here I am just working, part-time jobs, to get through school and things like this. But then thinking about, I can make more money doing this as a business. So I was 20 years old, when things just started. And I have to be honest, I did fail. I failed about 3 times before, like, I plainly gave up until somebody else would call me. They're like, hey, I really love your stuff. Please come do this to me. And it's like I would get this adrenaline rush, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to do this again. I love it, And so that was kind of a motivating factor for me. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that. And a lot of the times it was more like, because it was event coordinating, so I would do fashion shows and weddings. That was kind of the things that I would do the most. It was a weekend job pretty much.
Right.
And so I still had a part-time during the week. And I was working for a finance company at the time, and that lasted for about 2.5 years. It was about the time I had the business together. And I've learned so much. I've learned how to manage money, for example. That was a big thing. Also, the person that I worked for, he was very dedicated to his work, and he was just, I don't know, so particular about everything. And we used to laugh at him because he has German blood. So it's like, I've learned how to be a German, it's like German time.
That's right. That's why they make the best cars in the world.
Exactly. So that was, one thing for about 2.5 years that I really got to, and that's what helped me really scale my business. It helped me how to talk to people, because the truth is, people who don't have ideas and who are just living paycheck to paycheck, and they're always unthankful and just kind of like bickering about their situation.
Right.
They talk different, they act different. And then you have people who, it doesn't matter if they're broke in their account, but they think of success and high ideas. They're always positive. They're always thinking about the next move. And I finally realized that there's such a gap, and people think so differently from one spectrum to the other.
Right.
And so I learned how to think like this. I learned how to speak life into myself, into my business. And that helped me so much. And then after that, it was 2015. I sold the business because that's when I realized, I was kind of getting burnt out too. I had this part-time job and I was working weekends, and I was just
Plus, we're starters. We're not maintainers. I mean, entrepreneurs have a tendency to want to start something, get it rolling, then we're on to the next thing. So yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, of course. And you're so right about that. It's like you get bored fast, but I wasn't bored. This industry kept me really busy. And I think it kept me away from, church and family and things like this too. And it was kind of like, is this something that I want to do for life? And the answer was no, this is not something I want to do for life. Later on, I want to have a family, I want to have kids. And if I'm going to be away all weekend, and because I started traveling a lot and doing different things, then it was just not something that I wanted to do long term. So that's why I decided I'm going to sell the business and I'm going to go back to corporate world and get more experience into starting a service-based business without like something more into technology or, the whole finance stuff, just consulting, that would be the best. So then after that, I started working for a Fortune 500 company. I was a contractor for about a year, and I was working as facility coordinator. And this is the company, they're #1 asphalt company in the US and #2 in the world. So you can imagine it's a big company.
Yeah.
It was over 70-something thousand employees. And
wow.
I was working in Atlanta at the headquarters. And it was very challenging. I mean, I was literally the youngest person in the whole building of over, 1,000 employees. Here I am, a 22, 23-year-old at the time, I can't remember. Yeah. It was like, here I am, working with these CEOs and CFOs and kind of arranging their meetings, arranging their travels, arranging everything going on, doing expenses. And I was even amazed at myself, and I know this is not something that, it was with my merit. It was like such a great opportunity that I didn't even expect, because it was through a recruiting company and I actually interviewed for a different position. And so they were like, well, I think you'd be better in this position. So
yeah, because they recognize very quickly, from what I remember in the previous conversation, that like you're overqualified for what you're interviewing for. So you need to do this other thing. Plus, you mentioned earlier in the interview the idea that sometimes I would offer suggestions on how to do things better. So you weren't just doing your like executive assistant or executive associate role or whatever it was. You were also speaking into things that were in other people's, I guess, job roles and responsibilities and things like that. And I would think that if they would receive that would really speak to the fact that you bring a lot to the table. You're not just somebody that's just arranging my travel and arranging my meetings and things like that. I mean, you bring a certain mindset and gifting to the table that people would start recognizing and start offering the ability to speak into things, I would think, more and more. And was that kind of a transition that led to where you are today?
I definitely believe so, because I always thought, whenever I worked for somebody, I always thought of how do I want my employees to be when I'm, the boss and I'm the decision maker. Who do I want to work with, and what do I want them to bring to the table? So I always thought about that. So then, I'm like, well, if I want my employees to be like this, then it starts with me. I need to be that employee. And I've realized, people always complain about their jobs and how they hate their bosses and all this stuff. And I always thought that was the most negative trait ever that you can have. Because if you have that hate energy, that's exactly what you're going to draw. You are never going to make that connection. And I think, being a positive person just radiates that whoever you meet immediately. And they want to be with you. They want to be around you. They want to know more about what you do. And that's something that I definitely believe that helped me in the long run, to land these amazing jobs, and that I never even I thought I wasn't qualified, for sure, because I've learned so many things. I would literally go YouTube how to do something.
Sure.
When they would tell me to do a task.
I can do that, no problem. Give me about 30 minutes.
Exactly. You have to have a can-do attitude.
Right.
And so, that was a big breaking point for me. And then I worked for just a few months, for a consulting firm, and thought it was such a big blessing, because I was thinking about being a consultant, but obviously there's just so many variations, because I was a construction firm, but I wanted to do more, of a service. Well, it's still service-based, but I wanted to do more into like the strategic management and marketing, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I definitely learned a lot from that. And then the last job that I had before I went into my company was for an leadership organization, and they were very prestigious. We worked with 188 nations, and it definitely, that's when I just fell in love with the whole international ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like traveling. I like to meet different intellectuals from, whatever part of the world they're in. So that was
You'd already crossed that bridge, though. You'd already crossed the cross-cultural bridge, even coming to the States. So
yeah.
you were way ahead of the curve there.
I guess so, but it's so different when you deal with international versus you just deal with American.
Sure.
So for those of you that are running a business and you're thinking to go international, I would definitely suggest to get more into reading about international things and just, tune into that, because, for example, if you go to the Middle East, they have their own completely different spectrum of doing things. And it's like, take Germany and then take, for example, Egypt, because it's the two countries I bet.
That's right.
It's like night and day.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Cats, dogs. I mean, it's yeah, completely. I mean,
but
even
they're both
Middle East,
successful in their own way,
yes.
They're just very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Of doing things,
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much, a little story how I got into, then I realized, okay, it's time for me to step out of this. I felt like I had enough knowledge to do what I wanted to do. And one thing that I would say that kind of ties in with what I was just saying about spreading that positive energy is never burn bridges. If you feel like you're going to go to another job, give 1 month notice or something, like give a notice, be friendly. Because the reason I'm saying this, one of my first clients was a former boss that I had.
That happens so often. You're exactly right.
So it's like
so often.
You don't
I
hear
love that idea that matter of fact, I'm gonna coin that if it's not already coined, this idea that, burn boats, don't burn bridges. That's exactly the whole idea.
There you go.
You can burn a boat, but do not burn a bridge, because you never know when that network, when you'll need that, or they'll reach out to you through that networking, or through that relationship. So let's do a quick shift here and kind of come up to modern day. Who would you say? I mean, you mentioned a couple of people that Tony Robbins and John Maxwell and others, but is there somebody even like primarily online today that you really look to and you think, this is kind of where I would like to be. This person is kind of a real inspiration for me, and why?
Well, I do like John Maxwell a lot. I read a lot of his books. I mean, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach because I did their program. So he's somebody that I look up to a lot, just because I love the belief he stands for and just the impact he's made on so many people.
Right.
Another person that he has passed away, but now his son is taken over, is Zig Ziglar. So now his Tom and his whole, family's taken over.
Right.
And actually one of my favorite quotes is from Zig Ziglar, and he said, help as many people to get whatever you want, help as many people as you can. And I believe that's so true, and even John Maxwell was saying, I was watching this video and he was talking about how to make 2019 a great year is everybody's important. You just got to serve. You're important when you serve. Right. And I think that's so true, because when you start giving out your heart and you are giving, with sincerity and with true love, and it doesn't matter what it is, just do something nice for somebody. You don't have to be rich, just smile for somebody. That just, I don't know, it makes your whole day. It just makes you feel important, because you are important. So that's somebody that I really look up to and I read into.
I think that's a great, segue maybe even into the next segment that we're going to talk about. But just the whole idea that if you are, walking in integrity and you're trying to put others' interests ahead of your own, then the rest of it tends to take care of itself. Not that you're not, concerned about what the numbers look like, not that you're watching, how revenue's growing or not growing or whatever, but there's almost like a first step that says, I want to be a certain type of person, regardless of what the numbers show. I want to walk in integrity. I want to, you know, walk in rightness, and then the rest of this will take care of itself. And, you know,
Oh
if
yeah, definitely.
you're faithful and you're obedient, and if you're disciplined in what you're trying to do. So let's shift a little bit here. I want to really give you a chance here near the end of our chat that just to really kind of wrap this up and kind of tie a bow around it. And it's a segment we call the Rising Tide Micro Course section.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to just, you become the teacher here. You're the lecturer. And I want you just to take our listeners through a very short, you know, like 3-step, 3-step, very short course leading into, okay, this is kind of your first step into my world here, you know, into Cristina's
Mm-hmm.
world. And then wrap it up with how people can find you, you know, online, and how they can learn more about your services.
Perfect. Well, the first basic steps when I tell people, obviously you want to start a business because you have an idea. And the hardest thing, what I find challenging for people, is how to network. I know I talk about this a lot, but if you're service-based, if you don't have a product to sell, you are selling your mind. Pretty much you're selling your expertise.
Yeah.
And that's really hard because a lot of times people might not believe in you. And especially for me, it's challenging because I'm still young. You know, I don't have 20 or 30 years of experience behind my name. So, but networking has been my best friend. And so I'll just, you know, kind of briefly tell you 2 of the most important steps I do when it comes to networking.
Mm-hmm.
And if you apply these to, you know, your business, or if you want to grow your network, I guarantee you that it's going to help, because the steps that I've done, it never turned me down. So what I do, I go on Eventbrite. First of all, I go on eventbrite.com. You know, everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows that. And I search different networking business opportunities in my area, and most of them are free. And some of them, you know, you pay $20, $30, you know, whatever,
Right.
just because there's refreshments. So what I do, I always have business cards with me, and I go to those events and I just see people who I might be interested in, you know, continuing my conversation with. And always, whenever I meet somebody, I don't tell them my whole story, because they're not interested in my story at the moment. They didn't come to see me. They came for the event, you know? Because sometimes I see people just kind of say it all out, and the person is like, oh, I can't wait to leave, you know? Just introduce yourself and don't talk about yourself. Just ask questions and tell them how interested you are. For example, like, let's say I just met you, Kevin, at at an event, and I would introduce myself and, you know, kind of ask you, so what do you do, Kevin? I know you tell me you're starting, you know, you're doing the Rising Tide startups.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't start talking about what I do so I can be on your show. I would just ask you a question. Wow, that's so amazing. How did you get into this? What motivated you to be into this? And, you know, like, wow, that is very inspirational. I would love to talk to you more about this. So maybe next time we can meet for lunch or coffee, you know, because then that creates after that, you know, and you have time to meet as many people. Make it short, ask a few questions, get the business card, and move on. What I do is, about a day or 2 days later, I put about 2 hours in my calendar. I look at the business cards that I met, and I email personal emails to each person individually. Hey, Kevin, it was so nice meeting you at this event yesterday, or, you know, whenever. I really loved what you're doing. I'm very curious and interested, and I want to learn more about you. And do you mind if we go for a coffee, or, you know, we grab lunch, just so I can see how we can connect? And, you know, I believe that we can work together, we can network. That makes the person feel special, because they are, you know, you're interested to connect and collaborate. I've never gotten a no. You know, people never, I'm sorry, I don't want your coffee.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sorry, who are you? That's right. I was drinking too much of that event. Anybody, that's right.
Everyone is always, sure, definitely, let me see when, you know, and sometimes, you know, people are busy, they might not, you know, grab coffee with you like the next day. You know, I've had people who I've scheduled a month in advance.
Sure.
Or, you know, even later, because, you know, you're traveling, you're doing all these things, but people never turn me down. And we have great conversations, because then when you're meeting for that 1 hour that you've set up to meet for coffee or lunch or whatever, they are mentally prepared to come listen to you. They're not distracted by anything else. They
What a
just
great
know
point. Yeah.
that's when you can talk about yourself, because they're interested. Don't start talking about, you when you're an event. And people do this all the time. It's, I don't know why, and it's because for me, I've realized that when somebody just starts talking about themselves, they might be great, but I don't know if I want to connect with them. I don't know. It's a psychological thing.
Right.
So that's one point. The other point with social media is such a powerful tool. I mean, it is incredibly powerful. You have the opportunity to make an impact for millions of people to see what you're all about, all from the comfort of your own home or whatever you may be. And so what I say with that, it's great that you love cats. It's great that you love dogs. It's great that you like to party, whatever you like to do. If you're a business person and if you're really serious, I would suggest to make a private account, and that's for your own personal stuff and family. But if you want to really leverage your social media for business, only have professional pictures. It's okay to post, things if you travel. Make it personal to a certain extent. Like I travel, for example, and I put some of my traveling pictures in there. But I talk about business. I use that to talk about business. I use that to showcase my skills, to showcase my experience, my education. And I've met so many people through social media. I mean, I've met people from Dubai who I'm doing business with right now. I've met people from so many different parts of the world, and just here from, the States as well, but just people from California, people from New York that I've done business with. I mean, even last month, I met this incredible, amazing gentleman from New York who does, he's in theater production and all that stuff. And I met him through another mutual friend on Facebook, and it was all business related. And I was flying to, I had a meeting actually in New York, and from there I had to fly, out of the States, but I made some time to meet with this person. And I was so thankful because I met such a genuine person and who was potentially going to connect and do something together in the future. But it's different things like this, and reach out to people. But first, be serious on social media. Don't just post everything. And please keep politics and religion stuff, all the stuff aside. I mean, I share certain things, but if you're going to start debating and then tell your problems to the world, nobody wants that, That's, everything has its own timing. So if you want to do that, totally go ahead and do it. Just don't expect a good business to come out of it.
Right. It won't grow your business through posting political stuff and
Exactly. And I mean, I post inspirational Bible verses and different things, but it's not something that it's going to be, I'm not sure. I don't debate political stuff on social media. It's just, that's, and I know this information might sound a little harsh and maybe politically correct, but it's the truth. And, people can lie to you, but you're not going to get any sort of results. And this is just the truth and the reality we live in,
Right.
Somebody serious is not going to take that as you as a serious person.
Yep.
So. And
those are great points. And I mean, you've delivered a lot of value in about an 8-minute slot here. I mean, just two things that if people would really focus on the things that you mentioned, whether it's networking or whether it's using social media wisely, then that will certainly grow whatever business they're in, whatever product service business they're in, and it will be a benefit to them. And so wrap up, how can people learn more about your company? Give us, contact information for your company, and what's the best way to get in touch with you? Definitely.
So I keep it really simple. You can go to my name, Cristina Neculcea, which is CRISTINANECULCA.com. You can find more about me. And then same for social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all my first and last name, Cristina Neculcea. I don't do any, and that's one thing too. Don't try to come up with fancy nicknames if you're in business and you're trying people to find you. leave all those aside for your friends.
Good.
I keep it simple. It's my first and last name for LinkedIn. I'm huge on LinkedIn. I post a lot on LinkedIn, so that's a great way for people to connect with me. So, you know, like I said, I keep it simple. My first and last name, no other nicknames.
Now, how does that relate to Vankoë Group?
So that relates to Vankoë Group. Vankoë Group is something that I'm working on too. It's a parent company, and I'm branching out into different things because I do real estate investments, and then I also do marketing strategies, and then I also do public speaking. So, but the best one.
And I'm an astronaut, and I'm a brain surgeon, and
you know what? The sky's the limit.
Classic underachiever. I mean, I wish I could get you out of your comfort zone and get you to work on something, you know, inspirational here.
I'm living the American dream, okay? Because in America, you can do anything you want.
Absolutely.
So there you
go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Christina, it has been a pleasure to have you here. So is there anything that we have not touched on that you would like just to kind of wrap up our chat with, and we'll just close it after you lay your last value bomb on us?
Well, I mean, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. You got me so excited to, you know, just talk about all these things. And I love doing this, you know, I love helping people. But one thing that I could kind of like one last thing to tell people is always be positive. You know, don't sit in your misery. And it's okay if things go wrong. It's not going to kill you. That's one thing that I am a huge, huge believer in. Just have faith, be positive, and do whatever you can do and let the rest. It will come out okay. And please take time to focus on yourself. I know as business owners, you always want to cater to everybody, but you never have time for yourself. And I learned that the hard way when I was having a panic attack and I had no idea what was going on. It's because I was overworking. So it's okay to take a day to just reflect on yourself, because if you don't have any more to give, then how are you going to make an impact? So that's something that I want to leave the viewers with.
Well, that has come through in spades, so to speak, in the entire interview. I mean, and every time that we've chatted offline, it has been such a pleasure just to engage with you and just grow a new friendship here. And I'm looking forward to, you know, collaborating on a lot of things moving forward, and however we can help you from Rising Tide standpoint and just personally. But thank you again for your time and just giving us so much value in such a short period of time, and really just kind of brightening the day of our listeners by just listening to you talk and hearing your heart through this interview. So thank you for playing your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Cristina, have a great day.
Thank you, you too. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
All right.